afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I love a response. I'm a teacher by training, so I'm used to people responding back to me when I say hello and welcome to Montgomery College. We are absolutely delighted to have you here today, and I want to express such deep appreciation for you choosing to be here, but also to the organization that brought you here today. I really want to also, before I get to that series of thank yous, is to thank Marilyn Balcom of the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce for your leadership. You are certainly a friend of the college, but more importantly, a deep believer in this work that we're doing about economic development. The Chamber has been a strong supporter of the college for many years, so we appreciate your collaboration. And I'm so happy to welcome my friend David here as well, who's the president and CEO of the Maryland County Economic Development Corporation, another partner of the college. He has now become the newest resident of Montgomery County, although he's been here a few months now. We like to always extend deep welcomes to him, and he has become very integral in the work of Montgomery County. I want to thank all of you, the Crew Suburban folks who worked so hard to put on today's event. I love meeting the leadership, and thank you all so much for allowing me to join you today for lunch. I'm thrilled that you invited me because one of my favorite topics to talk about is workforce development. And the professional groups such as yours that are doing this type of work are truly integral in helping young people envision themselves into successful roles and helping those people who are changing their lives and changing their work come through community colleges to do that. Groups like Crew also help important industries such as real estate to maximize their positive impact on the economy. I want to extend a deep and personal welcome to a very special one to our governor, Governor Hogan, on behalf of Montgomery College. I know that you are an intensely strong supporter of education and an advocate for economic development, two forces that complement each other seamlessly. We appreciate your support for community colleges, which play such an important role in the regional workforce development. The college's attention to filling gaps in workforce needs and helping students to become active, productive professionals drives a lot of the work that we do here at Montgomery College. So I believe that your vision for Maryland and the vision of this college works hand in hand to really produce the reality that we want to see. Partnerships also drive a lot of the activity of the college. This weekend, I had the opportunity to speak at a tech talent event, which drew close to 100 technology companies that want to know more about Montgomery College's training programs to help fill their needs. And as you know, the college recently won a $25 million grant from the U.S. Department of Labor over the last 3 years, all around workforce development that serves people and helping them to remove barriers to education. Our Tech Hire Grant and America's Promise Grant, as well as the Tech Grant, are providing opportunities to people in Maryland to build their skills and to help support the knowledge economy that our governor talks so much about. Community colleges are uniquely positioned to make these opportunities a reality, particularly for people who would not be able to do so because of their economic background. With grants like these and close partnerships with industry, we are investing in people in our communities in ways that pay dividends over and over and over again. Just this morning, for example, I was at the Montgomery County Correctional Facility, where the college has a program that teaches inmates while they are incarcerated, because education is a powerful tool against recidivism. This weekend, I spoke at the Montgomery County STEM Summit, where about 350 K-12 post-secondary educators met to discuss strategies to advance STEM in our educational pipeline so that our bioscience companies here in Montgomery County and throughout the state of Maryland have workers that they need to do the work. Now, those of you who are here from Crew are probably thinking, well, what does all this have to do with real estate? Well, strong communities, I believe, grow from healthy, productive workers who buy homes and rent office space to expand their businesses. This has ultimate benefits for all of us. Montgomery County is a popular place to settle because there are high-skilled workers and high-skilled jobs, there are strong schools, and there is a rich diversity to our community. So making education affordable and accessible to everyone is a growing priority. Montgomery College is dedicated to increasing opportunity, and I want to thank Governor Hogan for his support of our capital projects, especially our STEM education buildings, which are the training grounds for the next generation of Maryland engineers and technology leaders. I'm also excited about the recent Department of Commerce's WorkSmart program, which helps community colleges meet the workforce needs of local employers. These are the kind of partnerships that are successfully building an economy in Maryland that our governor deserves so much credit for. He has made creating new jobs and making Maryland a better place to live, work, and raise a family his top priorities. Since he took office, Maryland's economy has seen one of the largest improvements of any state in the union, and the unemployment rate is now at an 8-year low. He has enacted major criminal justice reforms with safety for our communities, and I also believe that he sees the value of the education pipeline for continuing economic growth in the state. In fact, he has made an important investments in education and transportation. For that leadership, we are deeply grateful to you, and we welcome you warmly to Montgomery College. Please, Governor Hogan.
Wow. Thank you all very, very much. Dr. Pollard, thank you so much for welcoming us here to Montgomery College, to the Germantown campus. It's wonderful to be with all of you. And all of those topics you touched on, luckily, are not the ones that I was going to talk about, but they're very important. We've been focused on workforce development. We put more money and more effort. We're being more creative. Our Secretary of Labor came up with the EARN program, some of the tech grants. We believe very strongly in our community colleges, and we've not only met the formula funding for all the community colleges, but we went over and above that, record funding for the community colleges, and we were able to not only fund the capital request for your expansion, but for every single, we met every single request from every single community college across the state. So I want to thank you for your leadership of this great school. Thank you. I want to, first of all, thank Carlin Kelly and Kathy Morrison and everyone at Crew for the outstanding work that you do. I want to thank you for the invitation. So nice to be here with you. I understand they've kind of made this connection through my much younger brother who works in a real estate company, and they said, you know, we're going to come speak to commercial real estate folks and a room full of women, and my younger brother's kind of an expert at both, so he did get me to show up today, but I really appreciate everything that you do to promote the business and professional development here in Maryland, what you do for women, what you're doing to expand the industry. As you probably know, I'm not a career politician. I've never held elective office. This is the first elected position that I've ever held. I spent most of my life in the commercial real estate business, founding, building, and running several real estate companies. And for the 30 years I was in the business, and I told some people earlier during lunch, when I got involved, there were very few women anywhere involved in this industry. It was such a male-dominated profession. And I can't tell you how exciting it is now to see an entire room filled with professional women from every aspect of this industry. And if you go into any boardroom and you're involved in any aspect, you'll see women sitting around the table. So I know that Crew has a lot to do with that, helping promote these kinds of careers for women. And I just want to congratulate every one of you. You broke through the ceiling, and now you're pushing all the guys out. You know, women are taking over the real estate industry. So I spent my whole life in commercial real estate, and then 2 years ago, I got sort of a promotion, and it was an election. Although, interestingly, it did include a huge cut in pay, so it wasn't such a great promotion. But I am now the CEO of a $45 billion a year enterprise with 50,000 employees and 6.5 million customers. to whom we provide a complete array of various different services. We also have quite a bit of real estate, by the way, so that's right up my alley. But I spent a lot of time in this field, and I truly appreciate the fact that Crew is empowering women and encouraging more and more women to have careers in the industry. Many years ago, I can't really count how many years it's been, but I served on an advisory committee at the University of Maryland to make recommendations to them about a real estate curriculum. I know many of you are engineers and architects and planners, but just a curriculum in real estate development and commercial real estate. And we talked about trying to create a curriculum and to start a graduate program focused on commercial real estate. And I had lunch with the former dean of the business school and talked about some of the ideas that some of our group had. And he actually said to me that we don't really see real estate as an academic pursuit. He said, we see it as more of a vocation or a trade. And so I said to him, you do know that the Smith School of Business, which you chair, was created and actually made possible by funding from a real estate guy, right? And anyway, all these years later, we've made tremendous progress, and now many of you are pursuing an education and even getting advanced degrees in many of these important fields. By the way, I spent my whole career in real estate. I left for 4 years because one of the former governors, Bob Ehrlich, asked me to come help him to turn the state around. So I left my business for 4 years from 2002 to 2006. And those were the best years for commercial real estate in history, which I missed completely. And former Governor Ehrlich gets me in front of a crowd and he says, how smart is this guy? He goes to work for the government in the middle of the greatest boom in real estate history. Then I go back, 2007, I spent 8 years in the worst market in real estate history. And but since I became governor, the market's starting to get a little better, right? I'm sort of a contrarian. So I'm glad you're all making more money. But as a lifelong business person, from the private sector, I sort of know firsthand the challenges that business leaders face today, and I know how the government can help businesses and help grow our economy. The entire focus of our administration has been on economic development and trying to help businesses grow and trying to create more jobs for our citizens. I gave my State of the State address a couple of weeks ago, and I was proud to report that after 2 years of progress, that the state of our state is stronger than it has been in many years. But let's not forget where we came from. In the years just before I became governor, just before I took office, businesses, jobs, and taxpayers were fleeing the state in droves. We had lost 8,000 businesses, 100,000 jobs, unemployment doubled, and our state's overall economic performance was 49th out of 50 states. More than 2/3 of all Marylanders thought the state was heading in the wrong direction, and a Gallup poll showed that nearly half of all Marylanders wanted to leave the state. And as a lifelong Marylander who loves the state, and as a small businessman here in the state, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And it's what made a guy who had never held elective office decide to run for governor to try to do something about it. So since January 21 of 2015, we've been doing exactly what we said we would do. We immediately began on day one. We eliminated, on the very first day I was sworn in, we eliminated over 100 job-killing regulations that the previous governor tried to push through in the closing hours of his administration. We're following through on the recommendations of our Regulatory Reform Commission to eliminate a couple of hundred more that are standing in the way of job creation. So far, we've cut taxes by more than $700 million. We've reduced or eliminated 255 fees all across state government, totaling $120 million. And several people mentioned this at lunch. It's probably the most popular thing we've ever done. We cut tolls at every single facility in the state. First time tolls have been cut in 50 years, and it's saving the taxpayers $270 million. That usually gets an applause. I don't know, you guys don't. We put all this money back into the pockets of Maryland families and small businesses and back into our economy. Now, when I ran for governor, I said that if elected, I would take immediate steps to address our transportation infrastructure, which had really been sort of ignored and neglected for 8 years, and it was really mismanaged. They had drained or siphoned $1 billion from the Transportation Trust Fund and spent it on things totally unrelated to infrastructure, and we had crumbling roads and bridges and the worst traffic in the nation. Again, we took immediate steps, doing what we said we would do. We're finally moving forward on nearly all of the top priority transportation projects in every single jurisdiction all across the state. We inherited 69 structurally deficient bridges, and we're fixing every single one of them. We currently have $8.4 billion worth of transportation infrastructure projects underway in our CTP. Right now, as we speak, there are 1,073 road improvements and bridge improvements being made across our state that are currently under construction all across the state. It's historic, it's unprecedented, and I don't have to tell all of you that relieving congestion and moving forward on improving our infrastructure is absolutely critical to our local governments, to our local economies, and to economic development across the state. Over the past 2 years, our entire team, and by the way, I put together a great team. When I was first elected, I brought in with me a very diverse cabinet made up of Democrats and Republicans, most of whom came from the private sector and had real-world experience about how to run things efficiently and cost-effectively. And some of these folks their whole team is working very hard. They've made, I'm proud of them. I think they've made some incredible progress. Just today, just a few hours ago, U.S. News and World Report, and nobody's probably seen or heard this yet, but you may hopefully see it on the news. U.S. News and World Report issued a report of the 50 states. They ranked 68 different categories, including healthcare, education, government, economy, crime, and opportunity. And they compiled all of this data to rank the best states in the country. And I'm proud to report that as of today, Maryland beat out 42 other states, and we're now ranked number 8 in the rankings of best states in the United States of America. That should help with the real estate community. 2015 was the best year for business in Maryland in 15 years. It was the best year for job growth in 8 years. A recent ranking of the overall economic performance of all 50 states now puts Maryland in the top 10 in the nation. We've added 73,000 jobs. During the previous administration, our state had lost 20% of its manufacturing base and nearly 30,000 manufacturing jobs. But over the past 2 years, we've had a resurgence in manufacturing in Maryland. We've created more manufacturing jobs than all of the states in the Mid-Atlantic region added together. And a recent study ranked Maryland as the 5th most innovative state in America. Our state ranks 3rd among all 50 states for entrepreneurial business growth, which happens a lot here in Montgomery County. We're very proud that Maryland now has the 2nd lowest percentage of people living below the poverty rate in the nation, and that we have the highest median household income in America. We're experiencing tremendous business growth, job growth, and an exciting economic resurgence here in Maryland. And now more than 3/4 of all Marylanders approve of the job that we've been doing, and they now strongly believe that Maryland is heading in the right direction rather than the wrong direction. Maryland truly is open for business, but we're just getting started, and there's a lot more hard work that lies ahead so that we can continue making progress for Maryland. That's why this legislative session, we are working hard to pass our Maryland Jobs Initiative, which includes several important pieces of legislation which will provide incentives for the creation of thousands of jobs, and will also invest in education and job training to help prepare for those jobs so that we can help put even more Marylanders to work. The first part is the More Jobs for Marylanders Act, which will incentivize and encourage manufacturers to create more jobs in the areas where unemployment is highest and where they need the jobs the most, like Baltimore City, Western Maryland, and the Lower Eastern Shore. But we've cut the unemployment rate to 4.2%. We've added 73,000 jobs, but those areas have not seen the benefit that all the rest of the parts of the state have. So we want to try to incentivize people to go there. So any new company that comes to Maryland, creates jobs in those troubled areas where unemployment is still high, we will waive all state taxes for 10 years. And that's a pretty good incentive if you're working with some company that wants to move from whatever state they're in and say you can come to Maryland and not pay taxes for 10 years. In addition, to encourage our existing Maryland manufacturers to add more jobs in these targeted employment zones, we will provide a tax credit for any new jobs that they create. Our administration really is proud of the progress that we've made over the past 2 years. We're absolutely committed to continuing on this path and continuing to make progress, but we simply can't do it without all of the people in this room today helping to support the kinds of things that we're doing to turn our state around. And with all of us working together, I believe that we can and that we will continue to change Maryland for the better. So thank you, crew, for having me out today. Enjoy being with you, and thank you for everything you do every single day. You're a great organization. Appreciate the invitation.
I had asked the governor to set the bar low prior to coming up here, but that didn't exactly happen. You know, there's something very humbling about following the governor of the state of Maryland in a presentation, but I'm going to do my best. And no, I'm not one of his Secret Service people, although my hairline may have you think otherwise. What is that? He's out of the building? Okay. I'm going to start with a concerto, Beethoven's D minor. No, it's actually going to be a little less inspiring. It's going to be about economic development, but I think he got us excited already with all of the great things that are happening in Maryland. My name is David Petter. I've been here for about 6 months in a week, and I believe, as the governor knows, there's a great story to tell in Montgomery County. Maryland's a great place to do business, but I'd like to think that Montgomery County is the best county to do business. How many students are there in the room? No students. I thought there'd be some students here. Oh, back there. You guys be sitting up front, not in the back. Come on now. That's right, just like that, class mentality. So there's 27,000 open positions in Montgomery County right now, and the strength of economic development is based on us keeping talented students here. So please stay in Montgomery County, be smart, find opportunities. And I think it's okay to encourage you to reinvent yourself, think differently, try a different path. My background, to know a little bit about our economic development group, is to know a little bit about me. I grew up in Chicago to the father of a Chicago shout out. That's right. We were rooting for the Cubs earlier this year, weren't we? We're not rooting. I was more of a Sox person, but that's okay. My dad worked in the steel mills for 40 years and taught me the value of hard work. I went into school for advertising. In between my undergrad and my master's degree, I worked on a Creek Indian Village archaeological dig, of all things. I was out in the hot sun in Auburn, Alabama, with chiggers and snakes, and a Creek Indian village from the 1400s. Then went to Austin, Texas to become a copywriter. I was writing advertising for Papa John's Pizza, for Connell Airlines, for other clients, really became a storyteller. Opened up an ad agency in Austin, Texas. In the middle of that, I worked at a Chili's. I was an ice skater. I wore a lot of hats, and that's probably why I don't have the hair. But I reinvented myself in a way that I think put me in a position to be successful in Montgomery County, and that's being someone that can tell a great story. I don't believe Montgomery County has really had a chance, they've had the chance, but they haven't told the story. As I was called by a recruiter for this opportunity on July 1st, We called up Montgomery College on Wikipedia and we read all the amazing statistics, the highest percentage of post-baccalaureate degrees, 300 biotech companies, 3 international airports, a metro system, a strong K through 12 school system, federal spending beyond our imagination, just an incredible quality of life. All of these factors that my peers at other economic development groups would just give 10% for. But I don't believe that story has been told yet. So we're going to be doing a couple things at the EDC. Not only are we building the team, we have 10, 11 individuals. I see Lynn is here in the back. Thank you for being here, Lynn. Lynn heads up our retention and expansion efforts. But we're going to be doing really 3 core areas. One is retaining and expanding business. The second is recruiting business to the county from the outside. And the third is creating an environment for entrepreneurial success. But at the same time, I believe there's been a void in serving the companies that are currently here. So although we have people that are on the recruitment side and on the international side, we're going to spend a lot of our effort in the next 18 months on a campaign I call Outreach Montgomery. And that's going to be our goal to reach all of the key stakeholders in Montgomery County. Now, there's 32,500 businesses in the county. 24,000 of those businesses are 10 employees or less. So of those 32,500 companies, I would think that 20,000 may have the potential to grow, even by 1 employee. And imagine if we could add 1 employee per company, we'd have a job creation result of 20,000 people. So you're going to see our team focus very much inside the box, not thinking outside the box, but thinking inside the box, looking at our companies that are here and trying to remove barriers and find tools for their success. In addition to that, we're going to launch an advertising campaign called Montgomery 365, launching on July 1st. And that's going to be 365 individual executions, print ads, social media, videos, radio, each individual ad saying how you can be successful in business in Montgomery County. So that'll be ongoing for 365 days, and it's going to be quite a fun ride starting on July 1st. We've gone through the work on a cybersecurity study. We're focused on growing our cybersecurity industry as well as our biotech industry, working with our partners like Martha and the college to recruit corporate headquarters, labs, financial services, professional services, anything that can take advantage of our wonderful talent here in the county. With that said, everyone here is an extension of our team. We have 11 employees now. We'll have 22 or 24 in time, but Montgomery College and our chamber partners and students and real estate partners, we're all part of changing the narrative of doing business in Montgomery County. We're all here to remove barriers. We're here to tell the story in a way that it hasn't been told before. So let's make MoCo a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
So I'm going to briefly talk with you a little bit about workforce development, and I think our folks are going to help me get the deck up. Talk a little bit about Montgomery College's work in this space. We spent a lot of time at the college in the past year thinking very deliberately about the way that we characterize our workforce development structure here at the college. And in fact, we've built our work around 5 pillars, and much of this, I'm assuming, are things that should be very familiar to you. We are a comprehensive community college serving approximately 57,000 students a year on 3 campuses and 2 educational sites. We deliver both credit and non-credit programming. And what's very provocative about that is that we believe deeply in the comprehensive nature of our mission. We are the largest community college in the state of Maryland. Depending on my friend Wallace Lowe, how many folks he decides to admit into Maryland, we could be the largest undergraduate institution in the state of Maryland. We do that because we're the first point of access, and more importantly, about half of all undergraduates in this country attend a community college. So as such, we think deeply about the work we do, both in terms of credit and non-credit, and we've organized our workforce development around 5 anchors: information technology and cybersecurity. Unsurprising to you, there are about 20,000 vacant cybersecurity jobs in Maryland right now. So we spend a lot of time preparing people for entry-level work, but also we're becoming the finishing school for a lot of people who have a baccalaureate and advanced degrees in certain areas, but do not have the real work experience that's needed to advance that work. You see our biotechnology, life sciences, and healthcare as a major emphasis of the work that we do, building professional human services, communications, business, and hospitality. Each of these speaks to the distinctive competencies the organization has in meeting the needs of our community. We are exceptional in partnering. I have become quite infamous of saying of late that partnerships are the new commodity of higher education. If I take my little bit and put it with your little bit, it's pretty remarkable what might happen when we bring it all together. But more importantly, the only way that we're able to get exponential impact in terms of the work that we do is to partner with people to make sure that what we deliver is relevant. We have several key workforce partners that we work with both in the private space and also in the public space, but also those people who are doing significant work with associations such as CREW and others. How do we meet them where they are? In fact, one of the best examples of this is the apartment maintenance technician program that we have at the college. It was the Apartment Maintenance Association that came to us and said, our members are concerned because they're not finding people to step into those career pathways. Let's help you design a curriculum to meet that need. So each year now we are producing people to step into entry-level work, but more importantly, who are also building career ladders in a very significant growing market space. As I mentioned, we have about 20,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs in Maryland, and what's very provocative about that is that we are being the place where people are coming to get that education, whether it be through short-term certificates, but also through long-term associate's degrees and building on to degrees that they will go on and transfer to four-year institutions. We've been very fortunate to secure about $25 million in grants from the federal government that will allow us to be able to provide low-cost education and training for entry-level work and continued work in this space. Our biotechnology and life sciences programs are probably some of the things that we are most well known for at Montgomery College. We continue to be right at the center of the county's life sciences workforce production, knowing for a fact that we are working tightly with so many groups to help produce workers to step in. Some of our alumni are going into GlaxoSmithKline, MedImmune, BioReliance, and you can see others that are listed here, and they're moving into some of the largest biotech firms that you will see in this county. We specialize in this, and we do an exceptional job of working to support that. Healthcare is another area that you see a lot of work being done for community colleges, but we are the source oftentimes for this county's healthcare workforce. We know that nurses and nursing assistants are high in demand, and about 75% of first responders, in fact, in this country come through community colleges. So we have affiliations with about 270 different agreements to help expand the clinical experience for our students. We have partnerships with many hospitals in the area where we place students to have real-world experience while they're working, and we know that nursing continues to be one of the largest growth occupations in the country. Here's an interesting one that I think is, and this actually has probably changed even this morning. I was at a presentation where we were talking about the fact that the job labor shortages that you'll see in our county in particular are growing significantly in certain areas. Skilled trades and crafts, those of you who are supervising various construction projects will probably know that to be very true. Project management is one that we're seeing this growing very rapidly. In fact, this data, I heard just this morning, this number was probably almost double that in terms of vacancies that we're seeing right now. So again, the college has specialized programs in skilled trades and crafts. Also engineering, we have the largest community college engineering program in the country, where we have about 1,200 students enrolled in that program, and they're transferring to schools such as Maryland, MIT, Georgia Tech. They are doing phenomenal work in that program, and as a result of that, we're producing homegrown talent who will be able to assume work in corporations and companies and businesses in our area. We have a distinctive competency in education, arts, and culture. We have in the growth in web design, as you all might not be surprised, is growing exponentially. And we are working very thoughtfully. I heard about a whole new slew of software programming languages that we should be delivering. And we're also doing exceptional work in providing for the next generation of teachers and also helping to recognize the evolving demography of Maryland and Montgomery County. So we're the first place of entry for new immigrants into our country, into our county specifically, and we're very thoughtful about the delivery of courses in our ESL and teaming it with basic skills courses to help people move into work that is available right now in our county. Real jobs and real salaries are something that we specialize quite a bit in our business and hospitality area. You'll see here that we are trying to meet those needs both in terms of our food service management program, where we actually offer a certificate in food and beverage management, and we also have another program in meeting, conference, and event planning. Again, very significant programs of growth within Montgomery County. And again, we have recruited some of the best faculty to come in and teach those programs, both credit and non-credit, to help folks transition into those programs. What I would offer to you is that if you want to have a community that is growing and thriving, it will require a combination of economic development and workforce development. You can have a community that is, you can have workforce development and not have economic development, but you cannot have economic development if you don't have workforce development. Those two things are tightly coupled, and we see ourselves as an anchor in that space, a very unique space between the after K-12, when people are stepping into work and transferring to four-year institutions, but more importantly, when people are coming back to be retrained. That is something that you will see a growing area of emphasis in the work that we do. Last but not least, I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to mention a very special part of Montgomery College. A few years ago, the county came to Montgomery College and asked us would we consider being a part in helping to grow a new economic arm of Montgomery County. And we were very deliberate in working to do that. And as a result of several years of hard work, our PIC MC is the result of that. I understand you'll have an opportunity at a subsequent meeting to tour and understand more. But what we have done is crafted an opportunity for an innovation space in the county where we will be recruiting businesses to come in and to develop space with us in partnership to advance an economic and workforce agenda for the future. One that's built around innovation, one that's very tightly coupled to the academic delivery that we have here at our institution, but also to help grow this region of Germantown, Gaithersburg, and Montgomery County up county. I will also share with you that we're the first community college in the country to have a hospital on our grounds, and we do that through a long-term ground lease. And as a result of that, this is a wonderful synergy where our students are able to go and understand the world of work of a hospital and have placement there, but also the educational and social enrichment that comes from a college community having access to those resources is quite imperative. We're excited about this new age that we have in the county where we're launching this new initiative, but more importantly, helping to configure the face of Montgomery County and the way that people think about community colleges. We're not your typical community college, and we're proud of that. But more importantly, we believe in the full richness of the legacy and the mission that we have. And we are so delighted to have had the opportunity to welcome you to our campus. If you have any questions about anything that I've said, I'm very happy to respond to them. If you have further questions about our PIC MC, our wonderful executive director, Martha is here, and I think several of you have already had the opportunity to meet her. Members of her board are here as well. We're very delighted to give you any information you'd like about that. Questions or comments that you may have for me before I take my seat? I've tried to honor the time. Did I do a good job with that? All right. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. Murphy's Law caught up with me today, and I have a little tickle in my throat, so I'm going to apologize in advance. I've got my water here, so My name is Marilyn Balcom. I'm the president and CEO of the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very happy to be here today. I want to thank Crew for inviting me to speak and to thank you all for attending. I also want to welcome you to Germantown, which was just recently named the second most diverse city in the entire country. So we're very proud of that. To speak on a program with Governor Hogan might be a little bit intimidating, but to speak directly after Dr. Pollard is downright unfair. She is a great asset to our community, and we value our partnership that we have with the college. As a Chamber of Commerce, we're focused on establishing a business climate that fosters a healthy, robust economy. To attract businesses to the state and the county, we know that we need a high quality of life that will attract and retain highly skilled workers. We need good schools, we need safe neighborhoods, we need good retail, parks, recreation, arts. We also need good affordable housing and a business-friendly climate, as well as transportation infrastructure. The affordable housing crisis is far too large for me to tackle today, and the business climate is far too political to talk about in good company. So I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to focus my attention on transportation today. We've already heard that the workforce development is a critical component to economic development. But even if we have the jobs and we have the people, it's not going to do us any good if we can't get employees to their place of employment. Some might think that in this day and age that might not be necessary. Can't we all walk to work, or can't we bike to work, or can't we just work at home? I would think in 2017 we would have all had jetpacks on to get us to point A to point B, but that's not the case. If we look at how people get to work, 3% of us walk or bike to work. That's actually declined from a peak of 7%. Only 10% of us work from home. That's actually increasing. 20% of commuters take transit, with another 5% doing carpool or vanpool. That leaves 61% of us who drive to work in single-occupied vehicles. Now, there has been some progress. That trend is down from 71% in 2004, but we still, as a society in this county, rely on single occupancy vehicles. The average commute time in DC is commute distance is 17 miles. The actual time is 39 minutes. But most people, when they factor in their commute, it may only be 39, 40 minutes, but most people factor in an additional 10 to 15 minutes every day, every ride for traffic and transit incidents. So we're up to 50 minutes one way to work every day. We know that commuting times are important. When we make decisions about where we're going to live or work, we often take commuting into consideration. Over a third of us, before we make that decision, we look to see how close, whether it's ride-on or express bus, or what the parking situations are. So we know that commuting is important. We also know that business owners, when they decide where to move their companies, where they decide to locate, they take into consideration commute times. For instance, when Marriott just made its decision about where it was going to move its headquarters, being close to Metro, being frankly right on top of Metro, was an important consideration. The FBI move, the FBI made it very clear that it needed to be near mass transit. So not only is important for us as employees, but it's also important for economic development and for businesses deciding where they're going to move. When the Chamber surveyed businesses in the North I-270 corridor, we asked them what their greatest asset was for locating their business here. And it was a long list. Highly educated workforce, which we've talked about, access to talent such as high-tech, engineering, language skills, the number of high-tech businesses in the area, accessibility to DC and Baltimore is one of the reasons why people come here, great neighborhoods, great communities, and we have the advantage of lower rents comparatively to the rest of the county. On the flip side, when we asked about the challenges of locating their companies along the I-270 corridor, the list was much shorter. It was traffic, traffic, and traffic. Clearly, this is a great place to live, it's a great place to work, it's a great place to raise your family, but we need to find a sustainable solution to this traffic issue. Some polls recently have ranked DC top 1, 2, or 3 worst traffic in the entire country, while a recent poll dropped us to number 8 of the worst areas in the country. We have never not been on the list of worst places in the country. So when we talk about improvement, we're talking about baby improvement. But fixing the system is difficult. When we talk about transportation funding, we don't talk about millions of dollars. We talk about billions of dollars. As with most things in life, we have unlimited needs and limited resources. But to further complicate matters, when we talk about transportation funding, we have federal transportation projects, state transportation projects, and county transportation projects. And each of these are funded in different ways, each of them with a different legislative body making the decisions, the priority decisions, and different people make different decisions as to what is a priority. Each year, Montgomery County develops a list of their transportation priorities for the state for funding. The list hasn't come out for 2017. We expect that in the next few weeks. But in prior years, the major priorities for this area have been the Purple Line, the Corridor Cities Transitway, the Watkins Mill Interchange, and the new bus rapid transit system at US 29 and Maryland 355. So we're not faring so well on our big projects. The Purple Line, which will connect Bethesda, Silver Spring, College Park, and New Carrollton, was all set to go. The funding's in place. The governor supports this project. But unfortunately, it was delayed through a lawsuit. When Metro started having problems, opponents of the project filed a lawsuit to say that the demand for the Purple Line may be diminished based on declining ridership of Metro. So they were required to do additional studies to take into consideration the new norm for Metro. Those studies have been completed. They were completed in January, so we expect that that project will be back on track again. The Corridor Cities Transitway, that's a bus rapid transit system that will go from Shady Grove Metro all the way to Clarksburg. The project has been fully designed. It's currently in the final engineering phase, and that should be completed in the fall. However, we don't have any construction dollars tied to this project in the foreseeable future. So we need to do a lot more advocacy work to get this project funded. We do have good news on the Watkins Mill Interchange. This is a full diamond interchange off of I-270 just north of Route 124 in Gaithersburg. The RFP for the construction was published last week, and so we could actually see bulldozers as early as 2018. And trust me, I'll never be so excited to see a bulldozer in my life, to see the Watkins Mill Interchange go in. However, we're cautious about this project. It seems that the interchange has found itself smack dab in the middle of a political battle happening in Annapolis right now between the legislature and the administration. So we need to stay vigilant on this one, and we need to make sure that this project happens as planned. Two additional projects that have great impact on the economic development of our region is designated funding for Metro and I-270. The Chamber supports funding for both of these projects. It's ridiculous for a region the size of DC to not have a metro system with designated funding. And we've seen the disruption that the safety surges have caused to our transportation, and so that's provided more impetus to find a solution. So DC, Maryland, and Virginia all need to come together and to figure out how to make sure Metro is sustainable. But also the federal government needs to step in a more responsible way. With the number of employees, federal employees taking Metro, the federal government has to step up as an employer to see to make sure that that Metro is sustainable. As for I-270, it's hard to talk about that one. There needs to be a comprehensive solution for I-270. We need high occupancy toll lanes, we need express bus service, we need congestion management system, we need it all. There's a current congestion management project that was just funded by the governor, and we're anxious to see what's going to happen with that. But we consider that to be a drop in the bucket to the full fix of what's going to happen to I-270. There's more than 20 million square feet of existing commercial space that needs to be filled in the I-270 corridor, with an additional 30 million square feet of potential development along the corridor. When we translate that into jobs, we're talking about 150,000 jobs that could potentially locate along the North I-270 corridor. That's a lot of jobs. And we need to do whatever we can to make sure that we bring those jobs here. And I know that David Petter and his team are doing their part to bring jobs, as well as the Maryland Department of Commerce. We're a good partner with the Department of Commerce as well. But we also need to make sure that we increase the capacity on I-270. We can't expect to bring that many jobs, which we need. We can't expect to do that without fixing I-270. I also want to mention that our transportation issue isn't just local. Our workforce is regional. Of the employees who live in Montgomery County, just about half actually work in this jurisdiction. The same goes for people who work in Montgomery County. Over half of them live elsewhere. So when we look at residents who work outside of Montgomery County, 20% go to DC, so they're crossing the bridge every day to go into DC. 9% go to Virginia, 7% to Prince George's County, 3% go to Howard County, and then 15% go who knows where, but they don't work here. For those the employees working in Montgomery County, 10% live in Prince George's County and come in every day. 8% work in Virginia, 6% in Frederick, and about 5% live in DC. And so basically what we've got is half of our residents who get up every day and go to work actually leave the county, while the half of the people who work here actually come in from other areas. So that's two points. One is it would be a perfect world if we all worked close to where we live. That's not the case. That's not what our region is about. But it also identifies the importance of a regional approach. There's an ongoing joke at the Chamber, and many of my board members are here today. At every one of our economic development meetings or legislative meeting, someone invariably brings up the second crossing, right? It doesn't make any sense to ignore the fact that with all the commerce and economic development that happens between Maryland and Virginia, that we're ignoring the fact that we don't have access, we don't have a transportation access to Virginia. Even if we believe that the second bridge is out of the question, we continue to ignore the needs of the American Legion Bridge. So there is currently no plan in place to increase capacity, transportation capacity from Virginia to Maryland. That's a short-sighted approach, and particularly for us at this end of the county, when on a clear day, when you're at the river, you can see right across, and particularly when we talk about the airport and access to the airport. As the crow flies, Dulles is very close, but we're not taking the crow when we try to get to the airport. So we need to do a better job on that. So I just want to say, well, we'll always have unlimited needs and limited resources, which is even more motivation to focus on economic development and to protect and increase our tax base. We must do what we can to have a healthy, robust economy, and I think I'm preaching to the choir in this room. I think that's what we're all working for. But it also means that our elected officials when they make decisions about priorities, when they make decisions about what's going to be funded and how it's going to be funded, they must take the impact of economic development into consideration when they make those decisions. And transportation priorities is just the tip of that iceberg. So I just want to leave you with that. And I also want to thank Crew and at the Chamber, we deal in events every day, right? And events like this just don't happen. It takes a lot of hard work. And so I want to thank Kathy Morrison and Melanie, if Melanie's still in the room, Melanie Kendall, for doing such a great job. They did a great job. And with that, I want to welcome Carlin Kelly. She's the current president of Crew to say a few words and take us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, everybody. Man, if you guys felt like you had a tough act to follow, I thought all four of you were fabulous, so I am really in for it. And I took Marilyn's note on the water underneath the podium beforehand, so please let me indulge myself for just a moment. So thank you once again to all of our distinguished speakers on behalf of Crew, and thank you to everyone who worked so hard on organizing this event. And thank you, Dr. Pollard and Montgomery College, for hosting us here. This is a wonderful venue, and I can't wait to come back for the tour. My name is Carlin Kelly, and I'm the 2017 chapter president for Crew Maryland Suburban. We are one of 70 chapters across North America, representing 10,000 women and some men in commercial real estate. We are a business networking organization dedicated to advancing the achievements of women in commercial real estate. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year, and we are influencing the success of our industry as a whole through business leadership and development, research, and career outreach. I am also an associate managing business development at WB Engineers and Consultants, and I want to thank WB for being one of our event sponsors today, along with DVA Architects, the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce, and Book Construction. And speaking of book, I'd be remiss if I didn't plug that our two companies worked together on a project to build Dr. Pollard's new office that she'll be moving into soon. So we really hope that you like it. And that's one of many examples of Crew members doing business together. We strongly advocate that. I also want to thank our gold and silver chapter sponsors who support us year-round. Gold sponsors are Miles and Stockbridge, and Marcus, Hendricks, and Glasscock, and our silver sponsors are Cohn Resnick and Rogers Consulting. Though these companies represent different fields within commercial real estate, one thing that they have in common is that they are sending a message to the market that they are leaders in diversity and advancement of women in commercial real estate, and that they have substantiated this message by investing in Crew. Their sponsorship dollars help us to put on excellence programs such as this one, as well as a variety of networking and leadership development events held throughout the year. And I think our first 6 months have been scrolling on the screen, so we hope to see many or all of you at all of those events. In turn, for their sponsorship dollars, our organization is able to ensure our members are the best in the business. This is good for the bottom line of any company that hires and partners with Crew members. And speaking of hiring Crew members, I just want to kind of wrap everything up with a nice little bow with what our other speakers have been talking about and talk a little bit about how I think we impact the economy here in Maryland and the success of our businesses here. And I'm not just addressing the men in the room, saying hire women or work with more women. I'm also addressing the women in the room. That's a really important message to us, that women in leadership positions need to continue to bring each other along on their successful career paths and continue to promote each other and send business one another's way. More diversity is a competitive advantage for Maryland businesses and for stimulating economy. That's diversity across the board. How is it a competitive advantage? At the top, leadership teams and boards that lack diversity suffer from the false comfort of agreement, or in other words, groupthink. When a group of people all look at one another and see someone who is exactly like them and comes from a similar background, their unconscious bias leads them to overtrust each other. This is not good for our businesses. There are many research studies that support the claim that when you make these teams more diverse, what follows is increased returns, innovation, and employee and customer focus. At the Crew Convention this past October, one of the most successful and influential people in financial services, Sally Krawcheck, and retired U.S. Navy 4-star Admiral William H. McRaven, both from very different perspectives, great leaders, shared their personal experiences and research with diverse voices and good chemistry outperforming smarter and more talented teams. Of course, you can't only be diverse at the top, it is important across the organization. I read in a Boston Globe article last year that women have outnumbered men on college campuses in the US by widening margins since the 70s, and some projections suggest that gap will continue to grow in the coming years. I don't know if it's all right, it's the case here. Dr. Pollard has backed up the claim. And so, what does that mean? The more women that are coming out of these universities with degrees, the more candidates that you have and the more customers that you're going to have who are women. It's important from your leadership level, but also at all workforce levels to have people who have similar backgrounds and see things from their perspectives. Overall, hiring women, promoting them based on merit into leadership roles, and paying them well is good for the economy. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, when women work, economies grow. An increase in female workforce or a reduction in the gap between women and men results in faster economic growth. But women are still paid less than men. Crew Network does a benchmark study every 5 years, and it's available for anyone to go on crewnetwork.org and read the whole thing if you want some light reading. And the 2015 study found that though the income differences between men and women in commercial real estate are shrinking, a significant gap, 23.3%, still exists. That is too big, especially with how much spending power we have and all the decisions that we make on the household side. It's really a missed opportunity for our economic growth. This gap actually widens with years of experience and position, with the difference most pronounced between women and men in the C-suite and in the brokerage and development fields. The more the pay gap closes, the more spending power we have, which is good for the local economy, for not only the years that we work, but well into our retirement years. And I'm sorry guys, but statistically we live longer than you. So we need, that's a lot of years and that's a lot of opportunity for us to be spending and stimulating the economy. In fact, according to ActionAid, it is calculated that women can increase their income globally up to 76% if the employment participation gap and wage gap between the genders were closed. This is calculated to have a global value of $17 trillion. And I think the state of Maryland would like a slice of that pie. I could go on for a really long time, but in short, diversity and closing the pay gap is good for the bottom line of your business. It's in a direct way and on a broader macroeconomic scale, and we in Crew are working together and with local organizations and governments to make this happen. So please join us, and in the spirit of Mardi Gras, let the good times roll.